Okay. At least there's still some things to point out in it. Hello, I am Aiden Martin, and today we're going to talk about or doing a historical evaluation on the Scorpion King movies. At first, I didn't want to do it due to how it has almost nothing to do with actual history whatsoever. But I guess it's fun to do it. So let's see just how accurate, or in other words, inaccurate it really is.
Let's find out.
So, The Scorpion King was released in 2002, and it follows up a war, a warrior and his two brothers, of course, named Matthias, played by Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Of course, who was introduced in the Mummy Returns movie from the previous year. And only a year afterwards, they decided to expand upon its story. And of course, it had an original budget of about $60 million USD and received over 165 million at the box office. And personally, in my opinion, it was pretty decent. And the three sequels that fall were actually okay. And of course he faces off against some horde led by their king, who is their king because for being their most skilled warrior, Memnon, who rules from their capital Gomorrah, being one of the two cities mentioned in the Bible alongside Sodom, that were destroyed by God for a bunch of things. And and of course it is clearly a made up city. They're both made up cities that definitely never exist. Okay, first off, Matthias is mentioned to be the last true Akkadian, which, being knowing that it's set during the early 31st century BC or BCE, that would not be true at all. Of course, when the Akkadian Empire wouldn't rise till around 7 centuries after the movie takes place. Most, as explained in a video by Kings and Generals that goes into depth on the rise of the Akkadian Empire. All because of some guy in some Sumerian city-state. And early on, or of course around the beginning of the movie, of course, inside some bar, of course they mentioned they'll kill Mycenaeans. Though I guess presumably, judging by the people's bare skin and how the guy also has blonde hair and how they're in somewhere that is cold and has snow, presumably it would be in Central or Northern Europe. Though of course the Minoan and Sumerian civilization were around, but not the Babylonian or Mycenaean, nor Akkadian. Nope. And also, their weapons should be tipped with bronze rather than iron or even copper. And of course, the first swords wouldn't be or the earliest swords wouldn't have been used until around 1600 BC. Also long after the movie takes place. Most of the time they would just had, they should just have spears and or daggers or hatchets or axes that were all tipped with bronze. But even then that would be more the wealthier ones, since it was still fairly new technology at the time, even in that part of the world. And also, Egypt during that time, it would have been around time the Old Kingdom. And yeah, of course, it was never invaded during that time in real life. Though it would be by some army in the east, but of course, a full 13 centuries after the movie takes place, though it is by people to the northeast of them, being the nomadic Hyksos people, and introduce the chariot to them and the composite bow. And that would have served as a wake-up call to the Egyptians to improve their military, whereas before that they just relied on the geographic features surrounding Egypt. And because of it, they didn't need to improve their military up until them, and also resulting in the Egyptian army becoming fully professionalized. Very similar to the Romans during around the late 2nd century BC, during their first ever contact they ever had with peoples far north of the Alps, or in that case, more specifically, the Germanic peoples, being 3 tribes from what is now Denmark and the Baltic coast of Germany, the Cimbri, Teutones, and Ambrones, led by their chief Boiarix, which is what led to the Romans improving their military as a result, as a reaction to it, because they realized how inadequate the maniple system was against them. So yeah, the weapons are inaccurate, and also and also the day of when the Akkadian Empire would have fell is inaccurate, when the Akkadian didn't even exist as a civilization yet. Now, with the second one, it's about Mephise's early life, of course, being when he was a teenager, and who his family was, and turns out his father, Ashur, was the head of a elite group of warriors or soldiers called the Black Scorpions. Of course, and also the main villain being Sargon, who is actually secretly working for the gods of both love and war, the Mesopotamian gods of love and war, which they got that right, Ishtar. And again, the Akkadian Empire or Akkadian civilization wouldn't appear yet until several centuries later, long after the movie takes place, and Sargon wasn't born till way later. And same with Hammurabi, who was also lived during the even much later Babylonian civilization. And lived during the 18th century BC. And of course, and pretty sure being the guy who was famous for his code of laws that most people were taught about in an ancient history class back in high school or even as early as middle school. At least I was. And known for being incredibly ruthless and cruel. Just like most rulers throughout history that are absolutely hell-bent on world domination. And then, later on in the movie, he goes to the island of Crete. And of course, the guards are wearing classical period armor that would be accurate. It would be accurate if it were during the classical period, being during when Assassin's Creed Odyssey takes place, or a movie about Alexander the Great. But completely inaccurate for that. And after that, that's where it kind of ends. Now here's a little montage of what they would have really looked like if they were real. Or what it would have all looked like if it were 100% accurate.
Nope.
So there you have it. Overall, obviously pretty bankrupt. Absolutely bankrupt in terms of historical accuracy. And of course, hopefully, I'll do another episode like this. But yeah, overall pretty much bankrupt in terms of historical accuracy or credibility. And I mean, it could have been better if they'd gotten a group of reenactors, but at least they did it right, just like 300, for a fact it had almost nothing to do with the actual history or what was actually going on during that time. Especially when it's considered a very mythical time anyway. Even though same with 10,000 BC, even though personally, if it were 100% accurate really, it would actually not be as exciting. Of course. But yeah, hopefully it will turn into a series very similar to Skinova de Carnotaurus' Mistaken Truths, but rather than being on paleo documentaries, but instead historical movies, especially revolving around the ancient or classical period. Anyways, usual, thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe to watch more content on this channel every day.